Thank you. It's an honor to be here today. And today I'm going to tell you about why pleasure is the key to better health. But since most of you probably don't know who I am, I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of background about myself and what brought me here today. So I grew up on the beaches of Southern California, which is not, in a lot of ways, unlike Las Vegas. There's a lot of bikinis, a lot of skin, a lot of ideas and ideals about what a body is supposed to look like. And to say that it was sort of, the diet world, like dieting, is so pervasive there that to say that I was thought I was expected to diet is not accurate at all. It was just normal. I didn't even consider it as something strange. And so I dieted for years, just expecting it to be how I would live. And I started actually, well, I tried all the diets, and I started at the age of 11. I came into the kitchen, and I saw my mother having a Slim Fast shake. And I'm just like, dude, chocolate shake for breakfast? I didn't even think about diet at the time, and I just thought it was awesome. And so I'm like having Slim Fast every day. But not too long after that, I started having grapefruit for breakfast every day, doing the grapefruit diet. And then maybe I spent, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks having nothing but cabbage soup. It was awful. And quickly, I started counting points on Weight Watchers. I had the home delivery Nutrisystem. By the time I got to college, it was low carb, Atkins, South Beach, Zone diet. And by the time I was in graduate school, I was doing some crazy compilation of like all these put together and running marathons on the side to burn calories. Needless to say, I was totally miserable. But it was around this time that I picked up a book written by this man, Michael Pollan. And the book is called The Omnivore's Dilemma. And it's about how crazy it is that we are a culture so obsessed with health and fitness, and yet we are one of the most unhealthy industrialized nations on the planet. And he has a line in this book that like hit me so hard. It hit home so hard for me. And it's, he said that so violent a change in a culture's eating habits is surely the sign of a national eating disorder. And this light bulb went off my head. I was like, that's it. That's me. Like, I am the poster child of this national eating disorder. And it's not that I ever had a real eating disorder. I wasn't bulimic or anorexic or anything like that. But I was clearly had this insane and completely backwards relationship with food. And I realized that something needed to change. And it was around the same time I was a graduate student, like I said, and I was working on my PhD in neuroscience at UC San Francisco, which I couldn't find a good picture of it, but it's right about there. And I realized then that I believed Michael Pollan. I believed I was doing something wrong, and I was like, I realized I'm a scientist now. Like, I actually understand science. I don't have to rely on books by cardiologists who actually don't know anything about nutrition, or fitness gurus who tell you to go to the gym all day. I can go look at the data. And so I just started reading. And what I found was actually incredibly disturbing to me at the time. I learned that dieting actually predicts weight gain. That's depressing. That means that if you plot body weight over diet, it's like the number of diets you do over time, you get a graph that looks sort of like this. And I really thought this was a major bummer, because I'd been doing this my entire life. I'd been dieting. And this pretty much mimicked how my experience. I was never super overweight, but I was never ever happy. And every time it just felt like I was just had to try harder. I was losing this battle. And there are many hypotheses about why this is, why this graph looks the way it does. Michael Pollan's is that it's because of all the processed food. So real food is the way to get healthy, and processed food that's diet food isn't actually the solution. And I completely agree with him. But I think it's more complicated than that. And today I'm going to tell you a few of the reasons that are actually in the brain that I think that helps make this graph look the way it does. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between dieters' brains and normal people's brains, people who don't diet. And there are a few major differences. First of all, when you're a dieter, you are constantly making unpleasant decisions all the time. You wake up in the morning, you're hungry. You're not allowed to eat what you want. You go to the office, everybody's having pizza. You're having a boiled chicken breast and a carrot stick. You're hungry at 3 o'clock, but you're not allowed to eat until 6. It's difficult all the time. And it requires a ton of self-control. The problem, and another word for self-control is willpower, and we blame ourselves. We don't have enough, right? Gosh, if we only had more willpower. The problem with self-control is that it's exhaustible. You only have so much self-control to last throughout the day. And it gets used up by everything, not just dieting. It gets used up by not strangling your boss and not strangling your children and, like repressing your road rage when you're like driving to work and there's a traffic incident and it's really frustrating. And so I like to think, I think a really good analogy for your brain and for the self-control that it possesses is a muscle. So if you think about a muscle, no matter how strong, let's say your bicep is, if you start doing curls, there's going to be a point, no matter how strong you are, that you cannot do any more curls, even if you're at a 5-pound weight, because muscles are exhaustible. And what's interesting is that one of the reasons that they're exhaustible is that they require blood sugar. And the self-control in your brain actually is the same way. The self-control is, the fuel for self-control is blood sugar. And blood sugar comes from food. So you see this is a very big problem for dieters, right? If you need self-control to maintain your diet, and the only way you can replenish your self-control is by eating, but you're not allowed to eat, this is a big problem. So some people have referred to this as the dieter's catch-22. And it makes things difficult. There's one other reason that dieters' brains work a little differently than normal people's brains. And that is that dieters ignore satiety cues. And what that means, satiety cues are the things inside your body that tell you when you're hungry and when you're not hungry, when you should eat and when you shouldn't eat, when you should stop eating. And when you're dieting, you suppress I'm hungry cues because you're always hungry and you're not allowed to eat, right? That's what a diet is. So, but for some reason, this also translates into your body no longer understanding I'm full cues either. And it's not exactly clear why that is yet, but it's definitely related. So dieters don't know when they're full, and they have a tendency to keep eating. And so what this means is that if you have completely turned off your internal signals and you're no longer responding to them like you're supposed to, is that you're incredibly susceptible to all the external cues, all the things that are telling you to eat more. And in this day and age, it's everywhere, right? You should always eat more, there's fourth meals, and you should always eat worse, right? That's what we're told to do all the time. And this is a real problem. And for a dieter, when self-control is depleted and they're relying on these external cues, what happens is they overeat by a lot, by actually way more than they would have eaten had they never dieted in the first place. And the saddest part of all is that they have no idea that they do it because they have no signal. They don't know. They're reliant on these other cues. They think they're doing the right thing. So what happens is dieters end up eating way, way, way more than they think they do. It's incredible. And this is a big problem as well. So the moral of both of these stories, all of these stories, is very clear to me, and that's that diets don't work, at all. In fact, they make things worse. They make it much harder for you to lose weight. So we shouldn't do them. They're also really just horrible, right? They make you feel horrible. But there is something that works. And when I started reading, I figured this out. What matters is what you eat all the time, the pattern of foods you eat, not the things you don't eat, not the little things, but the main overall pattern of how you eat. And what that means is that it's based on your habits, your daily habits. Habits are the key to health. And there's a few reasons for this. One is that once habits are established, they occur automatically, and they don't require willpower. So you sort of sidestep that entire problem, right? That whole catch-22, it's gone. You don't need it anymore. And habits are lasting. And good habits are just as hard to break as bad ones, which is awesome. I don't know, I'm sure a lot of you go to the gym and work out and are athletic. If you skip a couple days, don't you feel awful? You're addicted to the gym, right? I feel the same way about vegetables. If I go for too many meals where I'm just don't have anything green and crunchy, I get so uncomfortable and unhappy, and I'm like, you know what? I'm addicted to salad and workouts. That's rad. That's way better than a diet. And then this is the most important message of all, is that when your most frequent habits are healthy, those occasional deviations, so those weekends, your birthday, that birthday cake, those are all fine. They don't matter anymore because most of the time you're healthy. When you're just choosing a good breakfast, the lunch at work is healthy. You cook dinner at home on weekdays. On weekends, go have brunch. Have whatever you want. Have some French toast. You'll be fine. So in order to harness this power that you have in you to stop dieting and build habits, you just need to know a little teeny bit about how habits are formed. And so this is the habit loop. It's been written about before. But basically what a habit is a routine that you go through in response to a cue. So for instance, you feel a little buzz in your back pocket, you reach down, you move your hand like this, and you glance over, and that's your habit to look at your phone. You get a little shot of dopamine when you see the information on there, and that's the reward, because your brain loves new information. So, so that's what a habit is, and that's how it works. When most of us want to accomplish something, what we do is we tend to focus on the routine, right? Like, if I'm going to get this, I go toward the routine. But it's really important to remember that if you want this to be if you want what you're doing to develop into a habit that lasts, something that makes you healthy, then then the reward is just as important as a routine. Because the reward is what reinforces the cue and makes sure that it develops into a habit and it strengthens the habit. And this is awesome news, right? This is rad. This means you have to enjoy being healthy. That means that you have to like the foods that you eat. It means you have to enjoy your exercise. So, I don't have a ton of time to tell you how to do this all the time, but just a few rewarding habits that I think you can take home and integrate into your lives today. Try eating a tasty breakfast. Healthy breakfast tastes really good, like oatmeal with raisins and cinnamon, and it's delicious. Choose foods you enjoy, whether they're healthy or not. You should never have to eat anything you don't want. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help you. Eat fresh, seasonal produce. Fresh stuff from the farmer tastes a world's better than stuff that was grown halfway across the planet, picked unripe, shipped to you, and ripened in a warehouse with gas. It's a completely different experience. Make exercise fun. You should enjoy it. You should, if you don't like going to the gym, go for a walk, go for a hike, join a club, find some friends. and work out with them. Track your progress. Your brain actually really, really loves knowing when you're making progress toward a goal. That's why we all get so addicted to video games. So having a food journal, using those digital scales to track your weight, like the Withings scale or the Fitbit scale, those are great tools to keep you motivated and make sure you're getting those psychological rewards. The rewards, by the way, can be incredibly subtle. Share your meals with loved ones. I feel like as dieters, we tend to view food as a fuel, something that's not supposed to be enjoyed. Like, you're definitely not supposed to enjoy it, right? You're supposed to absorb the important ones in your body, and the rest of them, you just try to ignore. But food is meant to be shared, and it's what builds community. It's what, our whole culture is really based around. And you should really take advantage of that. It's a beautiful thing. And never, ever, ever deprive yourself of things you enjoy. It really doesn't help. I can't say that more enough times. It's great to eat what you want, and you will learn once you stop depriving yourselves of how to moderate those portions, that you're doing it the right way for yourself. So I have a zillion more of these, and if you're curious how to create this process, how to build habits, which habits are the easiest to do, which habits are the great, you can check out my book, Foodist. It comes out in 2 weeks, May 7th, and I go into all of it. Thanks, guys. But if you take one, anything from this talk today, what I want you to remember is that food should be fun, health should be automatic, and your life should be awesome.
Any questions?
Yeah, any questions, anyone? You all know how to make habits. Go for it.
So what does a typical day for you look like now in terms of your eating?
So a typical day for me in terms of my eating, I wake up almost every day. I have muesli, which I make myself. It's just, I buy those 5-grain silos of oats. They're like $2, and I buy a little thing of trail mix, and I dump them together, mix it up, and I eat off that. I heat it up in the microwave with a little water for 2 minutes, sprinkle some cinnamon, some almond milk. It's delicious. Around lunchtime, I usually make some eggs or a salad or eat leftovers from the night before. I usually craft something at home. I work at home right now. I was writing a book forever. When I worked in the lab, I would bring in salad ingredients and stick them in the fridge, and I would just chop up the salad ingredients right there, and everybody was always jealous. It was awesome because I had such nice produce because I'd get it at the farmer's market. And then for dinner, 3 nights a week, I try to cook at home, and I usually have some sort of meat or protein and lots of vegetables and maybe some beans or lentils or grain of some sort. And I go out probably 3 nights a week and eat whatever I want. I usually go out to brunch once a weekend. Like I said, I haven't dieted since 2007, and I'm probably 15, 20 pounds lighter than I was then. So, and any more questions? Any more questions? No? All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.